I'm in the cantonment area of Srinagar, Badami Bagh, which is one of the biggest military bases in India, a very big military base indeed, and I'm with General J.R. Mukherjee, who is the corps commander here. General, in the last year or two, there seems to have been a change in the way the militants, the separatists here in Kashmir, operate. They have moved away from throwing grenades and running towards a more formidable form of attack. How substantial an enemy do you think they now are?
I'd put it as simply as this. Particularly post-Kargil, what we call Operation Vijay, the Pakistanis have tried to upgrade the level of proxy war through sending in better trained people, more of foreign terrorists, particularly those of Lashkar-e-Toiba and Jaish-e-Mohammed groups, and also trying to stiffen the backbone of the Hizbul Mujahideen by sending in more of foreigners into these groups. Now, they are all undoubtedly much better trained and much better organized, much better equipped than what they were before. And accordingly, we have had to evolve tactics and procedures to deal with that sort of a threat. And I think we have been fairly successful in doing so.
But when you see separatists launching attacks even on this top security base, it must be something that's deeply alarming for you and demoralizing for your soldiers.
I think I had gone to the media earlier on that particular issue. There have been two attempts on this cantonment. One was against the PRO's office, which is located just at the gate.
He's the public relations officer.
The public relations officer. And the other at the gate itself. Nobody's really got into this complex so far, and I am sure they would not get in.
Now, you mentioned that the new breed of militant is better trained, better organized, and I think it might be fair to say braver in some ways than the old form of militant. You also say that more and more are coming...
What our finding is that when you say really braver, it's not really braver. You find a man who has been fed opium, fed on drugs, and is totally under the influence of them, and has been told to do a particular job. He is doing it under the effects of being totally intoxicated with that drug. And plus, he has been totally indoctrinated through a process of religious institutions, and is totally motivated to that sort of task, that he is ready to die.
And this new militant, this new breed of militant, how many of them are Kashmiris and how many of them are from outside the valley?
Well, you would find 60% of them from outside the valley.
From where?
From Pakistan, from Afghanistan, and from certain other countries, particularly in the Middle East.
Now, the attack here on the Badami Bagh cantonment on Christmas Day of last year, Lashkar-e-Toiba said it was carried out by a British Muslim who came from Birmingham. Is your information that that's correct?
Not at Badami Bagh, but definitely Srinagar town, yes. The Badami Bagh incident didn't take place on Christmas Day. That was done by Jaish-e-Mohammed. And as per our information, it was done by a Britain-based, a boy from Britain, probably of Pakistani domicile.
How many British Muslims do you believe are active in the valley? Do you have any figures?
I am afraid I wouldn't be able to give you accurate figures.
You say that Pakistan is behind the insurgency. What evidence?
In the first place, we prefer not to define it as insurgency. For the simple reason is an insurgency is basically a local content and amounts to an insurrection. This is no longer the case in Kashmir. The majority of people of Kashmir want peace, and they would do anything to get that peace. And peace is being prevented by primarily the foreign element today. Today, most of the local Kashmiri militants themselves want to see the peace process work and participate in it. It is Pakistan. It is the foreign terrorist with the backing of Pakistan who are trying to prevent this taking place.
But do you accept that there was some really strong sense of grievance here in the valley to trigger off the militancy?
I am afraid that is a political question which I would not answer.
Do you believe that there can be a military solution to the problem in Kashmir?
I think a number of my superiors have already remarked on this to the media prior to this. And I think all of us do believe that we have to find a political solution. However, whatever that political solution may be, there would still be a requirement to deploy security forces, whether it is the army or any other type of security forces, to ensure violence is kept at an acceptable level to allow peace processes to evolve.
But do you ever find yourself in a position where you're passing on advice to your military or political master saying, if you let us take the gloves off, we can sort this issue out?
If you ask me as a soldier, at times I do feel that way. I'll leave it at that.
So if you were given the political green light, you believe you could crush the militants?
I'd put it differently. There are two aspects to the problem. One aspect is countering infiltration. Obviously, if nobody gets in, then the numbers inside would dwindle progressively. And therefore, the primary role of the army is to counter infiltration. And last year, we had enormous success in this, in controlling the quantum of infiltration. What is in the valley, in the Kashmir region, or for that matter the whole of J&K, it would then be only a matter of time before these terrorists are neutralized. And therefore, we already do have necessary orders. There has never been any ceasefire, which is a misnomer. The orders to us are very clearly that if you are struck at, you will retaliate. And similarly, we would continue to dominate the area. And should we be fired at, we would fire back. And based on that, our aim is to keep the law and order situation under control so that the peace process can progress further.
I recently met Sada Qayyum, the former Prime Minister of the Pakistan part of Kashmir, whom you were describing as somebody who you thought was, I think, fairly sensible, or words to that effect.
Yes.
And indeed, he is not bound in the way that most politicians in Pakistan are by slogans and rigid lines. But at the end of the interview, I asked him if he was a young man, would he be fighting here? And he said, yes, he would. If people like that you regard as sensible feel that there is a good reason to pick up a gun, what hope is there for a settlement?
I'd put it as simply as this. Out of the Kashmiri terrorists operating in the valley today, I would place the percentage as high as between 70 to 80% as those wanting to see the peace process work and wanting to give it a chance. Now, if that be the attitude of the terrorists, and I know for a fact that this applies equally to the Hizbul Mujahideen Kashmiri cadres who are still in camps on the Pakistani side, again I would place the same percentage of at least 60 to 70% of them who want to see peace be given a chance. And the reason for that is plain and simple this. Whoever you speak to in the valley, the local, he honestly wants to see peace come. And it is due to those pressures, as also pressures of having to face the security forces over the last 10, 11 years, that today the Hizbul Mujahideen does actually want to see peace work. And hopefully the Pakistanis will allow them to give it a chance.
When you say Hizbul Mujahideen wants to see peace work, you mean those people from Hizbul Mujahideen who are based in the Kashmir Valley?
I would say the majority of them, as also the majority across, with the exceptions of those who are under Pakistan's thumb.
So you mean the leadership?
Obviously.
It was suggested when what most people are calling the ceasefire came into force here, that Hizbul Mujahideen was observing an undeclared ceasefire in response. Is that true?
And that is an issue I wouldn't like to comment on.
Have you found the level of activity of some of the militant groups here in the valley is such to suggest a willingness to turn towards politics?
I think that would have to be watched more than anything else, for the simple reason that politics, as far as this region is concerned, having seen militancy for such a long period, is a process. It's not an overnight affair. So one would have to wait and watch.
But after 12 years of violence, how long can people wait?
I'd ask you a simple question. How long did Ireland wait?
But it wasn't very comfortable whilst people were waiting.
I fully appreciate that. And all of us, whether we be in uniform or whether we be out of uniform, want to see peace return to the Kashmir Valley.
General Mukherjee, thank you very much indeed.
Not at all.